Welcome to Also Cool Sounds Like. This season, we're featuring the stories and creative journeys of Montreal musicians. We're having conversations about where their musical inspiration comes from, what keeps them going, and what finding their place in the Montreal music scene has been like. I'm your host, Aviva.
And I'm your other host, Gwen. Who do we hear from today?
So I interviewed Alicia Clara. She's a dream pop singer-songwriter originally from Switzerland, and she moved to Montreal to really focus on her music career.
Yeah, she has a very relatable story where basically as soon as she got to Montreal, the pandemic hit. And so her musical career has been mostly digital, playing in front of the camera, and releasing this EP, Outsider Unusual.
Yeah, on that EP, she really has like a classic style, and her songs are really complex, and she really puts a lot into her songwriting.
Yeah, and she pulls on a bunch of different genres, and now finally, since things are opening up, she's getting to perform a lot, which is very interesting because she has this background in ballet. And so she's doing these local performances in Montreal, and then she's playing in Calgary in June at Sled Island. And then she also said that she has an album coming out in the fall.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear how her sound and her style will evolve after her first EP.
And I can't wait to hear what the episode will sound like.
Great, let's get into it. Our sponsor for today's episode is Dispatch Coffee. Visit www.dispatchcoffee.ca to try a coffee bag for home or coffee subscription today and get 20% off your first order. Use Also Cool at checkout.
Alicia Clara. I am originally from Switzerland, and I moved here about 2.5 years ago, specifically for music. And yeah, I'm trying to, make it happen as much as I can. I wanted to be a singer ever since I was like 6. And then I started taking piano lessons, when I was a kid. I didn't take music theory. I never really went in depth with anything. I just kind of knew that it made me happy. And I started writing songs probably when I was like 15, 16. And I wrote the first meaningful kind of song, or like the first song that I was proud of, when I was 17, so 11 years ago. But I didn't do anything with it for like 8 years just because I didn't know how the music world worked.
How would you describe the music that you make?
It's kind of a hard one because I feel like I'm always changing my mind with this. I always want to make different kinds of music, different kinds of sounds. And so I'll go through like periods where I'm like, I really want to be folky or like psych folk or whatever. And then I'll go through times where I'm like, I really want to be dream pop, and then I'm like, oh no, I want to be like straight up pop. I just like usually just throw it into the indie pop label kind of thing because it's easier because it encompasses everything. But yeah, it's kind of hard to define.
Alicia Clara's musical career hasn't been all that straightforward. Her original career path left her feeling unfulfilled, which led her to take the leap to try to make it as a musician.
So I studied journalism and photography in the UK, and then I went to New York for internships. One of them was unpaid and really trash, but the other one was at MoMA, which is really cool, but I didn't feel passionate about what I was doing. Well, now I need to think about my future and what I'm gonna do, and I had like panic attacks about seeing myself in an office doing something that I really wasn't passionate about. And so I think that's when the music kind of called out to me. And so I basically decided to get a job at a store selling clothes while I make music on the side, and that's probably like the best decision I've made.
And had you ever performed in Switzerland?
No, I mean, I used to be a ballerina when I was a teenager, so like I was sort of used to the stage because I used to have shows quite often, but I had never performed my own music.
Mm-hmm. It seems like a real leap of faith to like come to Montreal.
Yeah, totally. I thought I was crazy for the first few months. I got really unlucky in that COVID started like 6 months later, so I hadn't even had time to like make a nest for myself in the city. I didn't really have friends or anything. Because I was thinking of my options, I was like, where should I go to start a music career? And Switzerland didn't really sound appealing for that.
Tell me more about your background in ballet.
Well, I started when I was 4, but it really stuck with me. First few years it was more like this thing that was just part of my life. You know, I just didn't remember life without it, so I just did it because I did it. But then when I was like 12 or 13, I started dreaming of maybe becoming a ballerina one day, but I was just not good at it. I mean, I got to like pre-professional classes. I did it until the age of 15, and the last like 2 or 3 years, it was pretty intense. I was always the one that they put in the back for the shows, and I didn't really see it going anywhere, so I decided to stop. Also, like, I guess when I started having a social life.
And how do you find your dance and music background factor into your creative process for music?
Maybe the way that I feel music, like in my body, or how it can like transport, like take me somewhere. Maybe that comes from ballet. It's been a long time since I last performed dance, but my nerves are really bad before I go on stage, and it was the same when I was a ballerina, but once I'm there, I feel like there's something that I really like about it. I don't know why. As I was starting this music project, I was like, what's gonna happen once I have to go on stage? Because I don't know, like, I've never done this with music before. It was kind of bad. But then I remembered ballet, and I was like, you used to love this stage, so that's actually, yeah, something that's been comforting me.
One day we'll see the good days, can't wait to pave the way. Turn back our tracks, we there, I can jump back to this day. One day.
Take me back to your first time performing music.
The first time that I performed in front of actual human beings and not in front of a camera for a live stream was Pop Montreal 2020, so a year and a half ago. And I had a full band for that performance, so it was actually a lot of fun, and I feel like when I'm performing with a band, it's not that stressful just because there's, you know, it's not just me, my voice, and my guitar.
One of the first things Alicia told me during our interview was that music makes her feel happy. I asked her to tell me more about how she's come to rely on music and how this feeling compelled her to create her own musical work.
Without wanting to sound like a cliche, I am a Pisces, so I do love everything that kind of makes me escape reality. So I feel like music definitely... Like, it's very rare for me to walk in the streets without listening to music, and when I don't, I feel kind of overwhelmed by the sounds around me, like the sounds from the street and the people around me, and I'm like, ooh. So I feel like music feels like a little bit of a comfortable nest. I do sometimes like walk around and think of lyrics, which I will then write down in a note. Yeah, again, like Pisces, I just like spend my days daydreaming, and this is how I create a bunch of my stuff for sure.
So yeah, let's talk a bit more about like songwriting. How do you go about writing a song? What's your process?
I've yet not been able to just sit down and say, okay, today we're writing a song. It's just never worked. I've tried multiple times, but whenever I do it, I just like get overwhelmed, I think, by the pressure, like my own pressure of wanting to write a hit right away, which, you know, doesn't really work that way, at least not for me. So usually I just will like randomly take my guitar out of nowhere, and then suddenly something comes out. It's mostly how my songs are made. And then I will obviously like tweak it later on. Sometimes I'll start singing like things that are not going to make the final lyrics, so I'll just edit later on. But yeah, it's mostly spontaneous. I usually find the meaning to my songs later on as I'm rereading and re-listening. In the past 4 years, it's never been like a strong like sudden emotion that's triggered something. It's usually more like a state of being that then I reflect on, and it just like comes through spontaneously. But definitely I would say that most of what I'm writing about these days relates to my mental health, which probably is very inspired by COVID, unfortunately, these days.
Yeah, so you were saying a little bit about like being a Pisces and trying to understand your personality. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Outsider Unusual is, the title comes from the pattern, that astrology app. And I think because when I wrote it almost 2 years ago in the first lockdown, so I'm from Switzerland, but my mom is actually from Quebec. So I have all my maternal family in Trois-Rivières. And so when COVID hit, I went to stay with my uncle, and it felt like being a teenager again, where for 2 months I had my own bedroom, but, you know, I was like with parents in a way. And I was spending a lot of time just kind of reflecting on who I am without wanting to sound very cliche, but I was looking at the pattern and what's supposed to be my characteristics as a Pisces with my placements and whatnot. And, you know, it's fun, but I don't think I'm a pro at astrology and all that, but it definitely, I guess, sheds some light on certain things about me. I wrote that song Outsider Unusual about that, and it's once again one of those songs that kind of came spontaneously, where I'm just like asking questions to myself, kind of. I still don't really know who I am, but I definitely, you know, have all these like conflicting or contradicting feelings within me that's sometimes really hard to like detangle. But I think that's, you know, something that I'm going to go through for the rest of my life probably, so.
It's nobody's fault. We were not meant to dance after dark. The moonlit pavement through a sight. Ooh, staring to the sky. Deep blue sea stones like ice. Staring down unpredictable lies. But one day we'll see the good old days. Can't wait to pave the way. Turn back our tracks
Our sponsor for today's episode is Dispatch Coffee. Dispatch delivers traceable and ethically sourced coffee from small-scale farms to doorsteps across Canada. Their beans are expertly roasted in Montreal, which ensures your coffee will be fresher and higher quality than what you can get in the grocery store. Visit www.dispatchcoffee.ca to try a coffee bag for home or coffee subscription today and get 20% off your first order. Use Also Cool at checkout. The second track on Outsider Unusual, Haze Maze, leans into all of those genres Alicia was saying she wants to embody. The lyrics are dreamy and ethereal, and the tempo is upbeat and poppy, with a folky guitar riff underneath. I asked her to tell me a little bit about what went into making this song.
Well, I was walking like in June, close to the solstice, and like the light was nice, and I was like remembering, because as I said, my personal life has been pretty uneventful.
What do you mean by uneventful?
I just like haven't, you know, fallen in love in forever. I haven't like, I haven't like felt things in a while. I haven't been hanging out with friends as much either. I feel like most of my free time I just spend by myself. I remember seeing this once in a movie or maybe a TV show where it was like an aspiring writer, and they brought like a script to an editor, and the editor was like, what have you been doing like over the past year or something? And the writer was like, well, not much. And the editor was like, you need to go out and live and like experience life and, you know, like fall in love, like have your heart broken, or just like do things and then write about this and then come back to me. I always think of this because it feels like those past few years I've been in a sort of rut in that way where not much is happening to me, so.
Well, yeah, this song's definitely more like upbeat, kind of like peppy.
Yeah.
What were you trying to get across?
Well, so the first verse, where I sing, I poured some gold in your cup to squeeze out some hazy truths.
Some gold in the cup too. Squeeze out some hazy truths. We move on.
Is basically kind of saying like getting drunk with a crush so that they kind of start as they're drunk seeing you as maybe an option, which is super sad actually when you think about it. But you know, just like thinking back to university years and going out and chasing feelings constantly, or at least it was that for me. Yeah, so it's about like having fun as a young adult or even a teenager, and then yeah, I think it's mostly talking about a crush really, but not like one in particular, but
The feeling.
Yeah, of having a crush and trying to make it happen, but then like making mistakes and being kind of surprised that it's not working out, but it's actually because of my own doing. So I think that's what the song is about, but I didn't want it to be like too serious. I just wanted it to be like, as you said, like peppy, like, oh, it's that, you know, like second year crush that lasted 2 months.
I noticed all the songs that you've written so far are in English. Why do you choose to write in English?
Because French is just such a hard language. I mean, it's my first language. I feel like even natives, we keep making mistakes, like grammatical mistakes or even like vocabulary, whatever, constantly, just because it's such a hard language. And also I feel like saying things in French can sound, I don't know how to explain, but it can sound very serious, very fast.
Do you think it's easier to tap into emotions in a second language? Like, in that sense?
I'm not sure, but maybe. I'm trying, because the thing is, I also, like, half the time I will think in English and half the time I will think in French. Because I know there's certain things that I will think in English more than other things, and the other way around, too. I definitely get angry in French. It's when I'm really angry, it's really hard for me to speak English just because I think it comes from like the very core of me. Yeah, maybe some like really, really strong emotions kind of come to me in French first, but because it's so strong, it would feel like it's burning if I say it in French. One time, like my grandmother, who doesn't speak English very well, she messaged me and she was like, could you send me a translation of your lyrics because I want to know what it means? And I was like, no. Just because it's like some of the things I don't necessarily want to talk about with some people, I guess. Other than that, I feel like I touch on subjects that we're all talking about, at least like, you know, people our age, like our generation, our community. It just feels like I'm part of a larger conversation in a way, so it doesn't feel weird to talk about the meaning of my songs.
So you kind of touched on it earlier, but what drew you to the Montreal music scene, and what is your impression of now having lived it?
I came across like Elena Delon, Anemone, or like Tops, or a bunch of bands from here, and I was like, whoa, they all sound so cool. It just sounded like, I don't know, everything that I loved all at once in a way, and I was like, this is awesome. Yeah, and then I came here and I found the music scene to be very welcoming. I was just surprised that things were happening for me, that I was invited to like perform to places, or that, I don't know, like some people were following me on Instagram. I was like, I'm nobody. Like, why are you doing this? Just because I think that's one thing also growing up in Switzerland. If I ever mentioned wanting to make music, most people would respond like, oh, that's cool, but you know that it's a really tough industry and that most people don't make it and that most people just spend their lives like putting stuff on SoundCloud and it never goes anywhere. So I kind of had this image of the music industry that was really unwelcoming and really hard to like, I don't want to say infiltrate, but you know, really hard to like get into. And Montreal just showed me like the complete opposite. It was like, oh hey, there's a newcomer, welcome. What's your story kind of thing, you know. I was just like really surprised at that, which is definitely something that I love about Montreal.
And how did you actually start meeting people once you got here? Did you like put up an ad on Craigslist, or like how did you connect with other musicians?
No, I didn't put an ad up. I went to Fiverr and like looked up producers, and most of them I was like, definitely not for me, because most of them were like, I guess, EDM producers or like ghost producers, and I was like, definitely not what I'm going for. But then I found Dylan somewhere hiding out like in a corner, and he just looked really sweet.
Oh, so you actually connected online.
Yeah, I did. And then I listened because he put links to his music and to like Sorry Girls EP, I think, and I listened to it and I was like, this is rad, and I was like, I need to work with him. So I messaged him, and he, with like 2 demos that I had made, and he got back to me like within 2 hours, and he was like, oh my god, he was like, this is the best thing that I've been sent on Fiverr. And my heart was pounding. I was like, oh my god, for real? Because I just thought that, again, I was surprised. I just thought that I would get rejected into oblivion until, I don't know, forever. So yeah, it was a really fun way to meet, and then it took like 6 months before we actually met in person, I think.
Dylan ended up becoming Alicia's producer, and they worked on her debut EP together.
I met like other people, and he also introduced me to Michael, who's my current collaborator. And yeah, and then I met people through them basically. And also at work, I work at Annex Vintage on the side, and so I feel like everyone working there is also creative. So I've met like a bunch. So my friend who's a choreographer works there too. I've met like stylists, photographers, whatever, a bunch of people who have become my friends. And so yeah, a nice little community that I've made.
What are you kind of thinking about for the future? What are your aspirations for your music?
I'm recording a second EP right now, which I hope to release in the summer or like the fall, depends, because I feel like we're probably gonna go behind a little bit. And then I started writing an LP. I need to finish writing this. Beyond the LP, I don't really have a set plan. I just want to keep doing it and hopefully get to a point where I don't really need a side job anymore, but I know that this might take a few years, so but that's the general plan.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to say?
No, I think I talked for quite a bit.
So I showed you a rose in a bush to make you pick up the thorns. It's a push. I'm willing to make a point of how do you mind? But how come do I find splinters in my fingers?
This season of Also Cool Sounds Like is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Aviva Lessard, and Gwen Roley, in collaboration with Also Cool Magazine. Shout out to the Also Coolers Malika Astorga, Zoe Argyropoulos Hunter, and Rebecca Judd for their editorial support. Our intro music is by Jacob Lessard, and the show's artwork is designed by Christina Rivera. This episode was brought to you by Dispatch Coffee. Check out the magazine at alsocoolmag.com or on Instagram at alsocoolmag. You'll find some bonus content of the artists you hear on this podcast. We'll include a link to Alicia Clara's socials and streaming in the show notes. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen. If you'd like to be featured on the show or want to recommend an artist, email us at podcast@alsocoolmag.com. Thanks for listening!